Just working. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We obviously value the partnership with ARM very deeply, and what's really exciting about speaking here is Taiwan is sort of ground zero for computer innovation, and I'm going to hopefully paint a little picture today for an opportunity that lays ahead for all of us, for the computer industry here, for NVIDIA and for ARM as we all work together. So, in order to talk about the future a little bit, we've got to look backwards and sort of see where we've come from. So if you just look back, a couple of clicks ago in the computer business in the 90s, it was all about the start of the personal computer. There were computers at work, a couple of computers at home, and it was really the start of people creating content. It was what happened when we got the ability to go off and maybe just create simple presentations, do simple email kinds of things, a little bit of communication, but it started the whole opportunity for creating content. And it was an opportunity, probably tens of millions of units kind of number. Then all of a sudden the internet showed up, and the internet came around as a means to go off and share all that content that we created. It was about more people being online, it was about more people creating content and sharing content, and all of a sudden then the need for personal computers at home, for people to be able to go off and do this work at home as well as within the workplace, increased that opportunity to probably hundreds of millions of units. So each generation it gets pretty significantly larger. Then we've got basically where we are right now, where computing goes mobile. And we've created a huge wealth of content on the internet. We've got content generated through work, through play. We've got pictures. We've got applications out on the internet. And all of these things are meant to be shared. And now we need devices that can go off and consume that content. So what we found now is computers are becoming more and more mobile. And the reason that is we want to consume that content on a regular basis around the world, anytime, for days at a time. So again, this is now billions of units of opportunity. As Tudor talked a little earlier, we're not talking small numbers anymore, right? This is billions of units a year, soon to be many more, much larger than that. So when we go off and look a little bit at this, we got to go back and look at another enabler, and that's the operating systems. So if you look back in the computer industry, the blue line is the PC OSs. And it's been a really good business for all of us, NVIDIA included. It still is a great business for us. It's pretty significant in size. Cumulatively, it's in the 10 billion unit range. But then if you look at the green line, what's happened from the start of mobile computing, and if you really look at just the real robust mobile operating system, so look at iOS, look at Android, and you see a curve that almost is unbelievable. It's an opportunity for us to go off and touch so many more people, to influence so many more people and bring great content to so many more people. I think that the data just came out yesterday that Android has got about 200 million units out there. I believe they shipped about 60 million units last quarter. Apple about 20 million units last quarter. So these are staggering numbers, and it's ultimately what's going to bring more interesting content and more people to go off and make these a better experience. So that's from an OS standpoint. If you look at from an instruction set standpoint, again, the numbers are pretty staggering. Now what we've got is the ability to go off and literally target billions of units. We've got the ability to go off and bring immersive experience that you're used to on your PC onto your mobile device, and ultimately that's going to attract application developers and content developers. In a limited amount of money that they've got, when they're going off and trying to look at an opportunity, you look at the blue line, you look at the green line, where are you going to go? You're going to put your money and you're going to put all your investment in that green line, and we're seeing that, and it's accelerating. So let's talk a little bit about the PC. People talk about the beyond PC era, and I don't believe that's correct. I think what we've found is a really interesting thing that's happened as mobile computing has picked up. The PC, the classic notebook computer and desktop computer, are more and more becoming workstations. They're becoming things where you create rich content. As we sell more mobile computers, what we've seen at NVIDIA is we have higher performance and more notebook computers and desktop computers, because people want to create content. They want to be able to go off and do amazing things and go off and share them, whether edit movies, edit pictures, do full animations, and then go off and share those with people that are on mobile devices. So the two work very well together. And again, as we see mobile continue to grow, I believe what we'll see is the high-performance notebook and high-performance computer business continue to grow as well, with all the processing necessary there. So you're used to sitting in front of your computer at home or at work. Your brain is used to seeing a beautiful experience. It's used to doing the whole web. It's used to being able to go off and immerse yourself in games. And once you pick up a mobile device and you start looking at that display, your brain doesn't switch and say, you know what, it doesn't have to be as good as my other system used to be. There's really not the ability to compromise. So I have these devices. It's got to have the same rich experience that I've got in my desktop PC or a notebook PC, because otherwise people just don't think it's acceptable. And at the same time, I have a relatively small battery. You know, Tudor talked about zero power and infinite functionality or capability. We're really approaching that line, so we've got to find a way to innovate. We've got to find a way to do that better and still bring people the experience that they expect on their the PC that they've grown up with. So sort of the final piece that I think opens up this huge opportunity is operating systems. So it wasn't that long ago when you remember that Mac OS meant it was a PowerPC chip. And it wasn't that long ago when somebody mentioned Windows and it was just x86. And now we've got huge operating systems, but I talked about Android with 200 million units shipped so far, that was born as a mobile operating system. It's all about ARM. We've got Chrome that has capabilities on x86, but it's already been talked about, it's going to have an ARM capability. So now I'm getting to the point where maybe in another year or so, I walk into a store and I've got in my mind, I like one operating system maybe better than another, and I don't have to make compromises. I say, I'd like a clamshell, or I'd like a tablet, or I'd like a pocketable device. I'd like this operating system, pick one of the four, and I'd like it to be able to do these kinds of things with this kind of size display. And you've got infinite flexibility now. So we've got the biggest, most important operating systems in the world are mobile. They run on ARM. And the world is innovating around those. So I think that's going to be very unique as we go forward. And the thing that underlies all that is they're all based on ARM. I mean, the thing that is, as we have partnered with ARM over the years, one of the things that I've been very impressed with is they never forgot where they came from and what their mission was. It's all about doing things amazingly efficiently. And I keep asking for more performance, I keep asking for more capability, but the reality is we always kind of have to keep in mind that it's got to happen within a reasonable power envelope. We've got to be able to be portable. The things that you do on these devices, your mobile phones, your tablets, and soon to be your Windows 8 devices, it's uncompromised in terms of performance, but people want very, very thin devices, very elegant devices, and they want to be able to go off and have them run for days and have standby time of weeks or months. And I think that's the unique thing. It enables all of us as SoC suppliers to go off and take an architecture, to build around it and innovate and come up with a solution that allows us to solve our customers' problems. So when you do that, ultimately you end up with a different definition of computer. It isn't a change of a computer, it's just there's more computers out there and they're more capable out there. So this is a computer. When NVIDIA got into the SoC business or started working out about 6 years ago, the reason we did is we really believed all these mobile devices were going to become computers. And we had a heritage in computer architecture and said, you know what, a large market is going to require something that we're good at, so let's go off and put our heads down and try to accomplish that. So I call this a computer. I think everybody should, if you just look at what it's capable of doing, what content it can go off and play, and really what you do with your current computer now, and that this will do the same thing. These are computers. Architecturally, it's very similar to a phone. And again, these are from Acer, these are tablets, but again, when I pick these up, I want the complete computer experience that I've historically had, that I've grown up with now, that I have sitting in my office, I have sitting in my home. And finally, this is a real computer. This was announced this week. This is the ASUS Transformer Prime. This is a beautiful device, amazingly thin. This has got a quad core ARM SoC, Tegra SoC. It's got capability, it's fundamentally the same processing and graphics capability that you've got in your MacBook Air. But it ultimately is, I believe, snappier. It's got significantly longer battery life. It's just a beautiful device. This is what computers are moving to. They're not replacing the computers we have, it's augmenting it. So let's talk a little bit about where we think it's going. So people talk about the post-PC era. I don't believe that's the case. I think PCs, as we see them, as mentioned earlier, will continue to grow. I think it'll continue to be a great business. But I think that we're going to redefine what people call a computer, and therefore what they go out and purchase and want to use. So it used to be that that the displays were larger than 11 inches, anywhere up to 20-some inches. That was the definition of a computer. Right now, I believe any device built with a modern SoC, like a Tegra SoC, over 4 inches is a computer. And when we sit down with our partners and come up with devices, we assume that it's got to be able to go off and do all the things that your large computer can do in a much, much lower power envelope. From a communication standpoint, your computer's historically been plugged in the wall with Ethernet, or more recently has had Wi-Fi. Now, the computers are mobile, so any mobile communication is what matters, whether it be Wi-Fi, whether it be cellular, whether it be Bluetooth. You can't be tethered, so that's the new communication methodology. Input, it used to be all about keyboards, and there'll still be keyboards. There's going to be keyboards that attach to tablets. There'll be keyboards that you may use from a Bluetooth standpoint, but it's about touch now. I've got 2 little kids, and they've grown up with tablets and smartphones, and they want to navigate everything by touch. They want to navigate the TV by touch. Anything that's got a screen is assumed to be touch. And without that, it gets frustrating. And so we're seeing more and more of that. Battery life used to be a computer, it's less than 7 hours. You're usually by a plug. You just plug it in. It's just force of nature, force of habit. And now we're talking about devices that operate actively for more than 10 hours. It has to be more than 10 hours. It's got to have days of use. It's got to have weeks or months of standby. And then finally, it's about architecture, right? A computer, it used to be x86. That was it. And there'll still be computers that are x86. They'll still be a good business. But ARM SoCs are going to be able to go off and I think bring an awful lot to computers that don't exist right now in terms of mobility and battery life. So if you look at this, really just think about, as you go off and buy your next computer, there's only 3 things you have to care about, right? What's the display size? How does it talk to the outside world? What's the input methodology? And then out of all those things, you pick a device, and you should demand the same thing that you get out of your current high-performance notebook computer. And I think you'll be able to see that. So let's talk a little bit about the opportunity. As I mentioned before, I believe much of the computer industry's innovation has come out of Taiwan. And a lot of it has been focused, obviously, on netbooks, notebooks, desktop computers. There'll still be innovation there. It's a pretty significant business. It's obviously a very important business for NVIDIA. But then, as we go off and see this shift in operating systems, we're going to see consumer electronics companies, we're going to see computer companies, we're going to see all the SoC suppliers be able to converge on an opportunity that's pretty significantly larger. In the end, we get to combine all these bars.